Right, hello, with My Town Southend again, and I'm pleased to welcome Caroline Gladwin, who's come to see us from an organisation called Smiles Across the Miles. Well, it's a fantastic name for an organisation, Caroline. How on earth did all of that come about? What does it mean?
Well, it is a name that captures the imagination of anybody that hears it, because the first thing they ask is exactly what you've done. What is it all about? I'm an ex-RAF wife, and I lived out in Cyprus for 3 years, and communication wasn't as it is now. We didn't have emails and text messages and all the rest of it. And if ever you got a letter from home or a card or whatever, it didn't matter what was in it or whatever. You just smiled because it was a link with home, which when you're serving overseas is so very, very important. And we were there for 3 years, and I had my own family to write, and my grandmother was still alive, and it was just lovely. So when I started this, I could only think of how I'd felt myself when I'd served with my husband overseas, and I just thought Smiles Across the Miles just said it all. And that was it. We didn't have to think of anything else.
So it's just the thrill of receiving
Yes.
a parcel from home.
Absolutely,
which which is great. We've got one of your parcels here. This is one. It says a sample box for girls, and of course
Yes.
it's all full of girly things. And of course
Pink things.
we sometimes forget that we wrote a script this morning saying our boys, but it's not, is it? It's our boys and girls out there.
I always say serving personnel, because then that covers both male and female. And I've got a group of ex-Land Army girls that when they give me parcels, they deliberately do them for the girls. And there was a lady, when we first started, there was a lady in Wakering who was 92, and she'd been in the ATS during the war, and she sent, well, I've cried at the letters that have gone in these boxes because of security reasons, and because we mustn't offend our ethnic groups, shall we say. I have to read every single message that goes out to Afghanistan, because I have to, I can't create any controversy.
No.
And I didn't realise this, but when I spoke to a senior officer who'd been in Afghanistan, he told me that the Afghan civilians opened the boxes because that's part of their job, because I don't think people realise in this country how many civilian Afghans work actually on the base, because Camp Bastion is built in its 8 square miles. Can you believe that?
Goodness,
it's like a small town in the middle of Helmand province, and hopefully they've got a lot of the necessities of life there. But then, of course, they use it as a base, and the men go out from there to what they call FOBs, forward operating bases, and this is where our parcels become so useful, because every so often they do a welfare run, and they take if there's space on the helicopters, they take the parcels with them, and they distribute them accordingly, because we send to a welfare officer who distributes to each separate Army, Navy and Air Force as appropriate.
That's
but yes,
so we've got, this little box here, it's full of goodies. I never realised you could get so much into a shoebox.
Neither did I, actually, till I started. So we send out things that are reminders of home. I have great joy in buying. I've got a trade card. When we started off with absolutely no money at all, I funded the first setup, doing the PR and the paperwork and everything else through my computer.
You've been going since September 2008,
yes,
haven't
yes.
you?
So we're approaching our 2nd anniversary.
Wow.
And I didn't intend it to go beyond Christmas 2008. I really
Good
didn't.
gracious me.
Because I didn't think we'd get the support.
So how many shoe boxes do you think we've sent out to?
Well, we've sent
the troops
2,500 so far. We've sent, and we haven't really worked at it this year, we've sent, I think, 752 so far this year, and the last few months we've been out fundraising, which stops us being able to pack boxes, because you can't do everything.
No.
And we need to fundraise to have the money to buy the goodies. And so now we will start. But I've been called down to the MOD. I was summoned to the MOD in Whitehall to ask what it was we were doing. And they wanted to give us official recognition, actually, and I'm waiting now for the letter to come through, and then I can put it into the public domain to give us even more credibility than we've got, because we had to register as a charity within our own name, and the MOD, as I've said, are going to give us official recognition, which will help, and we can just carry on then, because I had no idea that we would get the support that we have, and it's been totally and utterly overwhelming. And it is so, so wonderful because we've involved the whole community.
That's fantastic. I have to say, a few months ago, I was approached to provide a shoebox to the
Yes.
to the
By whom?
troops out there. Oh, some stranger in a pub, I think it was. But
You're joking.
but my first
I don't
thoughts.
do strangers in a pub.
No. My first thoughts were, well, surely they got everything. The MOD supply them loads of stuff, and it's what on earth is the good of a shoebox full of
Goodies.
useful goodies?
Yes.
They've got families, they've got friends, what have you. So I thought, well, I'm not inspired by that. So what should I be thinking?
With deepest respect to you, Malcolm, you could never have served in the military.
That's right. I'm
Or had
sad
any
to say I didn't.
Well, no, don't say sad to say. It's just one of those things. You're between the ages, aren't you,
Yes.
when this happened? The thing is that many people say this to me, and many people that you wouldn't expect say it to you, middle class, very, very uptight people, quite honestly, have said to me, well, they get paid, don't they? Yes, they may well get paid, but I hadn't noticed in any of the news news coverage that I've seen from Afghanistan, I haven't noticed any naffies on every corner in Helmand Province. And this is what they're up against. One of the letters that I got only a few months ago, just after Christmas this year, said that they were out on a fob. Now, when they go out to a forward operating base, they have no facilities whatsoever. They don't have showers, they don't have toilet facilities. They dig a hole in the ground, and it goes back to very primitive survival, actually. They have to dig out a pit to do their cooking on. They have no, they have nothing. And they're there, I don't know, sometimes 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. And they have the clothes they stand up in, they have no laundry facilities, they have nothing. So when they get a box like this, it must be fantastic because they know they're not forgotten.
Yeah, I see. Now, you've obviously had loads and loads of help from the MOD.
Oh,
to
yeah,
do this,
right.
haven't you?
Well, you obviously haven't
I
been
know
in the
that's
military.
not really the... but where you have had help is from the local community,
Yes,
of course.
yes.
Now, how did you get the community involved? Where did that start? And
Through a very strong PR campaign, actually. I'm very lucky that I've got a reasonable business brain. I was nominated for Essex Businesswoman of the Year years ago, and I'd done a business course and a media course, and I've done several media courses, and I've done a public speaking course. And when I retired, I've given up retiring now, I decided that I wanted to work as a supporting artist, or extra as they call it, and I've done some lovely things with that, but I've also learned a lot of how to speak and how to present yourself, because that's what you do, isn't it? And I've brought all those skills, all those life skills, I've brought into my campaign, and I've just been totally and utterly overwhelmed. The one big thing that I didn't think would happen, when I set it up, I just thought it would be a purely logistical operation.
yeah,
That you would have to get the goods in, you would have to find a way of encouraging people to give you the goodies, and then you would find some way of packing the boxes and getting the empty shoe boxes, getting them into the Royal Mail, because I went online to do research, and I found that many groups throughout the UK are doing exactly what I'm doing. Nobody says a shoebox appeal is new, because it isn't. But the one big thing that I found was that most of them were sending to one regiment, or just the Army, just the Navy, or just the Air Force, and they were only sending to one group within that service recognition. And I thought, no, because of my own knowledge of living among the military, I knew that many young men, I don't mean to sound as if I'm feeling sorry for them, because I think what they do is wonderful, and many of them join the Army or the service, say military life, straight from school, or straight from a children's home, or from a dysfunctional family. The regiment gives them deep confidence, and it gives them a family unit. And this is what makes our serving personnel so strong, is because they build up this belief that you have to rely on the guy next to you for your life. And very often that is what happens. If you read the wonderful, brave stories that come out of Afghanistan, young 18 and 19-year-olds saving each other's lives, it really does get to you. And that is really what military life, I suppose, is about. And that's what makes our army so professional, doesn't it?
So I mean, getting back to the local community,
Yes.
obviously, I guess you'd still need volunteers and people helping to...
There's only 7 of us run this, and only 4 of us actually do the work.
Oh my goodness, mate.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Well, how I did it, once I'd made the decision to set it up, because it was something that it was a way, military life was something that I knew about, okay, and I knew how it all worked. And it was the one thing, and as the coffins started to come back from Afghanistan, which we've all sadly seen, there were 4 again yesterday, and I saw the 4 coffins on the tarmac at Helmand province waiting to be repatriated to Lynham. And one of them was a young girl. It was the first, Sarah Bryant, it was the first young girl. And I thought, I'm a woman, and, you know, I would have been a suffragette if I'd lived long ago.
I'm sure.
And I thought, thank you. And I so I thought, right, let's do it for the girls if we don't do it for anything else, you see. So I then sat and thought about how I could do it. So I went to the various co-op stores because I know they have a great community spirit. And I went to each of the managers. I started off in Lee Broadway. Yes, okay, fine. Went to Hamlet Court Road. Then I went to Sutton Road, which is the biggest one. And then I went, by mistake, I went to Tarpots in Benfleet because I should have gone to the one in... I really meant to go to the one in High Road, Benfleet, but then I realised that the one at Tarpots is visually far more, you know, easy to get at, and it's got a big car park. So I'm quite happy with that. And they almost fell all over me. Yes, we want to help, because a lot of them had, a lot of them were military families, and they had nephews, nieces, or whatever out there. So that was lovely. And then I did the launch on September the 17th, 2008. And the Mayor, Gwen Horrigan, is from Lee, and she's very military-minded, and she knew me anyway, and yes, we did the launch. And I invited the children from Bournemouth Park School, because I have a thing about, I think children always make a lovely atmosphere, and they were absolutely overawed, and we took them down to Porter's and we gave them picnic tea in the garden. It was a beautiful day. We invited the senior officers from the Careers Office, Army, Navy and Air Force, and other ranks, and they had Bucks Fizz and nibbles, and the children had a picnic. We laid it out in the garden for them, and they ran around, and they were fascinated by Porter's. I don't know if you've ever been there, most wonderful building in Southend, and they were fascinated that this was, they thought the mayor actually lived there, okay? And I said, well, she's only mayor for a year, so how would she be able to move all her stuff from Lee into the house and back again? By the time she'd settled down, it would be time to go again. I said, so we call it the mayor's house, but it isn't really. She doesn't live there. And they all looked a bit startled by that, because they couldn't understand that. They were only 12 and 13 years old. Yeah. And in the end, I said, I know why she can't live here. There's no Sky television, so of course she can't live here. And that was the end of it. They accepted that, and they just ran off. But the joy of that was they couldn't come in their minibus. We did the launch at the co-op in Sutton Road because it's the biggest co-op, and they couldn't come in their minibus because they had filled it with goodies.
Oh, wonderful!
And they all walked down to the store.
And that was the first.
And that was when I realised what I'd started. And another lovely thing of that was about 2 or 3 weeks later, when we were actually packing all these things. And there was a great big, trolley.
Yeah.
And the co-op gave us loads of stuff as well. And they said to me, come and pick all the stuff you want. Can you imagine how lovely that was? So we all go off. And then there were 3 great big carrier bags, and the handles were tied, and I didn't know what was in them. And when we took it all over, and in the meantime, I'd worked out that we needed a big packing area. So I'd gone to various people with no result. And then I suddenly realised that the Army Cadet Force in Lee has a big hall over at Eastwood.
Yeah.
So I went over to see Charlie Brown, the cadet officer, and I asked him if it was possible. He said, not only can you come and pack here, I will give you this much space in the stores, which are secure, so we put all our stuff in.
So what a fantastic community operation across the whole borough as well.
Across the whole generations as well.
Isn't that? That's fantastic. Caroline, thanks for coming in and talking to us. It's a fantastic story. I hope it long continues. Well, in a way, let's hope that all our guys and girls come home
safely,
soon and safe.
In one piece.
Lovely.
In one piece.
Thanks a lot, Caroline.
You're welcome.